My family and I just recently visited Japan and we had a fantastic time. So for this video, I wanted to share some of the costs associated with our trip to Japan. So I'm going to cover things such as how much we pay for our accommodation, our food, transportation while we're in Japan, the flights, and other activities that we took part in. So our trip started from Vancouver, British Columbia. We flew directly to Haneda Airport. The total round trip cost for this was $3,896. That's in Canadian dollars for 3 people. When it came to accommodation, we pretty much used Airbnb during our time in Japan, except for our one stop in Kyoto. When we arrived in Japan, we started a trip in Tokyo. We prefer to stay near the Skytree, and having a kid, this location, while it's touristic, it's actually a really great location. We stayed in an Airbnb just a few minutes walk from Tokyo Skytree, and the total 5 nights accommodation for the 2-bedroom, 1 bath was $1,517, and that was in Canadian dollars. From Tokyo, we continued our trip down to Kyoto. We stayed 2 nights there, and this time we stayed at a hotel rather than an Airbnb. I found the location to be pretty good, and we could walk to restaurants and shops around the area. The hotel also had an onsen, which was great. The total cost for the 2 nights there was $754.11. Our final stop in Japan was Osaka, and we stayed here for 6 nights. We stayed in an apartment building that was booked on Airbnb. The location was great. It was a short walk away from the train station. It had lots of restaurants nearby. I normally try to stay around Namba station, but this location was walking distance to the mall still. The total cost for the 6 nights was $1,341 Canadian.
行きが参ります。危険ですから黄色い点字ブロックの内側までお下がりください。
One of the things I love about Japan is how easy it is to move around. Most of the times you can be walking most places or taking the public transportation. In this case, you're going to be using the train mostly. So we utilize both the local city train as well as the bullet train or the Shinkansen. So for us, we used the Shinkansen to get from Tokyo to Kyoto, and then from Kyoto to Osaka, and then from Osaka back to Tokyo to catch our flight back home to Vancouver. When traveling around each of the different cities, we pretty much walked or took the local train, and most of the local trains we took were really short distances, so no more than like half an hour at most, and most of the trains we took were probably anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to get to our destination. I did not capture, the actual train rides we did individually for the city train, but I did kind of write down an estimate for how much it cost for the Shinkansen, which was roughly around $816 Canadian for those trips between Tokyo to Kyoto, and then from Kyoto to Osaka, and then Osaka back to Tokyo. We also did do a train ride to go to Legoland as well, which is also included in that cost estimate of $816. Now, when it comes to the city train cost, I don't know how much we spent for the whole 2 weeks we were there, but I would say, on a day-to-day basis, you're probably spending no more than maybe, I don't know, $10 or so, depending where you're going and depending what location you're staying in. So I would say to reduce the need for you to pay, like a high cost when it comes to like traveling within the city, pick a really great location that's going to be close to most of the destinations that you plan to go see or do things around. Japan is an amazing place when it comes to food. What I really like about Japan is whether you want to eat high-end or just want to have like a food from 7-Eleven, the quality is pretty much similar. Like they're really good. So for my family, we really didn't eat anything high-end. We just more or less ate from local restaurants around where we were staying, and then we utilized 7-Eleven. So there's no sense in eating high-end food when you're traveling with kids, right? If you're a parent, you understand that. And my kid honestly just loved going to 7-Eleven to grab his own little snack. So I don't have in terms of how much we spent the whole 2 weeks there because I wasn't tracking every single thing that we did. But I will say on average, we probably spent somewhere between $10 Canadian for breakfast. Maybe we had a really heavy lunch, which would be somewhere maybe around close to like $50 to $60 for us. The most expensive meal though that I did know that we spent, which was at a restaurant, it was like a steak restaurant, and this rounded up about $80 Canadian for us.
Everybody clap. Thank you. Next. Last 1 minute. Sweet. Thank you.
So I have to admit something that you probably don't know yet. This is not my first time in Japan, but this was our first time traveling with our kid to Japan. So we did more activities that were geared towards, kids, such as going to the Osaka Aquarium, going to Legoland Japan, and then we also did Universal Studios, which I would say is more for an adult. If you do have kids under 5, I highly recommend that you do go to Legoland with them because I think you'll have a lot more fun just because those rides are really catered, I would say, to kids, 5 or under. You have a great time going to Legoland rather than going to Universal Studios, which I think is a little more catered to older kids, but it's great for the adults. We also did other interesting things for the adults, such as helicopter rides in Osaka. So anyhow, I didn't track every single thing that we did, but I'll give you some idea in terms of cost when it comes to some of these activities. So if you're thinking about going to Japan, I would say definitely do it. I don't think you're going to regret going to Japan. It's a fantastic place for, adults and kids. And if you have a family or a young kid, it's a fantastic place for you to go visit. It's a super safe country. So just traveling with kids, you're going to not really feel any of that pressure to kind of keep an eye on them or wondering what they're doing. You can literally let your kid just run and they're not going to get any kind of trouble. So it's a fantastic place for you to travel to. In terms of the cost, is it worth it? Because, if you add up some of those costs, you're probably looking at total trip cost for 3 of us somewhere in the 10,000 range, I would say. But again, it can be cut down depending on what kind of traveler you are, right? I remember when me and my wife used to go to Japan just on our own. We used to do this trip probably somewhere in the 3 to 4,000 range, because again, we don't really need to have the super top end, you know, places to stay or whatever it is. But again, we do like to, you know, when we travel comfortably. But I think with a family, definitely to make the experience worth your time, I would say spend on the things that are really gonna bring you guys, you know, memories. And I would say things like Legoland is really a cool place for you to go to. And then you have like cheaper activities like just going to the aquarium in Osaka, or just going to lots of these free activities you can do while you're in Japan that doesn't add any cost. You can definitely cut on the cost by also looking to, you know, eat out at like 7-Elevens. And honestly, like I said, you might think it's not a good place for you to eat at 7-Eleven, but the food there is probably better or just as similar as going to a restaurant. So again, I think this is a fantastic trip for you to go on. Hopefully this is giving you some insight in terms of budgeting and kind of have an idea how much you have to put away if you're looking to do this trip. And of course, you can cut down on the trip by maybe doing a shorter trip as opposed to a full 2-week trip in Japan. But I hope that's helpful for you. And if it has been helpful for you, do me a favor, make sure you do hit the subscribe button, and make sure you've also hit the like button, and don't forget to turn on the notification so when I do put out other videos, which I'll do more travel videos like this if you're interested in, to let you know what the cost breakdown is when me and my family are traveling, or myself, I'm just traveling about. So I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care.